Inspector Calls revision. Introducing an Inspector Calls, James B. Priestley. An Inspector Calls is about society and class divides. J.P. Priestley wrote an Inspector Calls in 1945, during the Second World War, and he set the play in 1912. In 1912, society was not equal. People with more money and with higher class had more power. Priestley used his unequal society of 1912 as a setting to get people to think about inequality in 1945. An Inspector Calls has a strong message. The audience knows that the character's world is going through terrible changes. In 1912, was just before the First World War, which began in 1914 and killed millions of people. Priestley wrote an Inspector Calls to challenge his audience to think about how many more disasters lay ahead for them than they didn't learn from the past mistakes. The war years affected J.B. Priestley's life and writing. In 1894, J.B. Priestley was born in Bradford. In 1910, he left school and started to work as a clerk at a wool firm. In 1914 to 1918, the First World War, Priestley was wounded, but he survived. In 1919 to 1921, he studied for a degree in modern history and politics at Cambridge University. In 1922, he started to work as a journalist in London. In 1939, the Second World War starts. In 1940, Priestley presented a popular BBC radio programmes, photo scripts, but his show was cancelled after members of the government decided Priestley's views were too socialist, left-wing. 1941 to 1942, Priestley founded various social organisations, more about socialism. 1945, the Second World War ends. In 1994, Priestley died at the age 89. Priestley's views are shown through the Inspector. The Inspector is very socialist and believes that how the middle class portrays themselves is very selfish and only care for themselves. In the play, Arthur Burling, who is known as Mr. Burling, controls his wife, who is known as Sybil Burling, also known as Mrs. Burling. Arthur Burling controls Sybil Burling, and this is a very much more or less, a controlled family. They are seen as the perfect family in the beginning because they're all sitting down at the dinner table. Gerald is proposing to Sheila, and the dad is saying wonderful speeches about how the Gerald Croft business can be built with the Burlings. This is very important because this is the main reason why Mr. Burling wanted Sheila and Gerald to get married, because he wanted their companies to join. As Mrs. Burling is very much controlled by her husband, Mr. Burling, this is not shown. This is in Macbeth. This is the other way. Lady Macbeth controls Macbeth. This is weird because in the Victorian era, because in the Jacobean era, men took control of their wives, and wives were meant to just stay at home, cook, clean, and look after their children. 1. One spring event evening in 1912. The Burling family is celebrating Gerald and Sheila's engagement. It seems to be going so well, but Sheila suspects that Gerald lost interest in her last summer. As the audience, we know what's going to happen. We know that when the inspector comes, he puts it as a chain of events that is shown to chain of events. It continues from one effect. It's like a domino effect. One effect. It's like a domino effect. One effect affects all the others, and they all pile on top of each other. Arthur gives a speech to Gerald and Eric about his business. He says that every man should look after himself. Inspector Gould arrives and says that woman called Eva Smith has committed suicide by drinking disinfectant bleach. He starts to question the family members one by one. What the inspector does when he's questioning the family is this is nothing. I'm just going to quickly... Give me a pen. This is Sheila. / Daisy Renton. And basically, has like a photo of her. Let's just draw her thingy. Sad, because she is sad. And a stick man. That's Daisy. He has the photo and he shows them one by one. As the audience, we can suspect that the inspector is exploiting Eva because he is going through her personal stuff, her diary. He's also might be showing them different photos. For all we know, the name he's given to us is Daisy Renton and Eva Smith. But why wouldn't Eva Smith go as the same name? Oh, wouldn't Mrs. Burling see her in the charity? Because earlier on in the play, they go to Millward's. Millward's is the clothing shop that Sheila gets Eva fired. So if Eva is fired, her mum notices Eva. Sheila's mum notices Eva and tells Eva to try on the dress. And that's why Sheila fires her because Eva looks better in the dress than Eva. But if the mum notices her, why didn't she help? Because of social class, social justice. That is why the Burlings did not want to help to Eva Smith and Daisy Renton. They just wanted to be selfish, and that's why this affects on the middle class and the middle class's actions and how they are selfish and mistreat others, especially Scrooge.